Check once, is it audible now to everyone? So is it audible to everyone? Yes, okay. Yes, so what is the purpose of function here? The main purpose of function is refactor the code. What is meant by refactoring? Refactor the code means actually refactor is a refactor. Refactor is the process of encapsulating the code into a block and extract to a function, to a extract to a file or function name. That is the meaning of refactor. That means some set of code you can collect, you can combine it as one unit, and we can store in a separate file, or we can store under a separate function name. I will show you that. That means, for example, what is advantage of this? The advantage of this, so that you can reuse the code. Without rewriting the code, we can reuse the code. So for example, let's see here. Suppose we are using, so our project, in that let's open one JavaScript file. We will keep a JavaScript file. So I will add some JavaScript file here, some demo.js in the scripts I am adding. Now in demo.js, we are writing a simple for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. And console document dot write some value of I plus br. We are writing like this. Now I want to use this again and again. Those 3 lines are used again and again in different places. Then if we have to write again and again, it is burden for application. So what you can do is, see, we can select all these 3 lines and we can right click on those lines. Then you will find an option called refactor. This refactor you cannot find when you are writing JavaScript in HTML page. If you are writing JavaScript in a separate file, then you will find this refactor option. So what is refactor is, so when you select refactor, it will ask extract to file, or move to file, or extract to function. We will give function name. Suppose print numbers and enter, and automatically it will display. Now what is happening? It is writing a function called print numbers. In that, it is storing some lines. Whenever you want to access, you can just access print numbers. This process is technically called as refactor. It is technically called as refactor. So refactoring means collecting set of lines and storing them in a separate reference name. What is the advantage of doing that? so that you can access and use from any location. We can reuse the code without rewriting the code. That we can do by using this refactor option. This is basically the purpose of a function. So generally you can say directly it is used for reusing the code, right? But how it reuses the code? By using a mechanism called refactor, right? That is one point. So you can try this. How to try? First, add a new JS file. Suppose some demo.js. So after that, write a set of lines, a set of code. For example, for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. And we say document dot write I. So like this, we return some code. After that, what we have to do, select all lines. So, and then right click on selection. And we have to choose refactor. And here what you have to do, name the function. So function name I given as print numbers. Like this I define. This is the process of refactoring. But generally what developers do, they know that these lines they have to reuse. If they know that they have to reuse those lines, they directly write one function. In that function, they will put those lines. If I forget to write the lines in a function, is there any possibility that I can keep them in a function later? Yes. How we can do that? By using this technique. What is this technique called as? Refactor. So technically creating a function is refactoring the code. So refactoring means keeping all the lines of code in one file or in function so that we can access and use it. This is the first point you have to know. What is the purpose of function and what is the meaning of refactoring? How to refactor the code. Right? Next important, if you are manually writing function, then you have to know about function configuration. Function configuration means how to write a function. Actually, function configuration, two ways are there. JavaScript function can be configured by using two techniques. One is you can use function declaration. Another one, you can use function expression. Two are there. Sometimes in interviews, they ask this difference. What is difference between function declaration and function expression? So what is the difference between declaration and expression? Actually, function declaration will be like this. So declaration syntax will be like this. We have a function name, function keyword, and we will have a function name. And if necessary, we will pass parameters. Parameters are optional. And we define a block like this. This is called declaration syntax. Actually, expression syntax is there. Expression syntax, we write like this. Var, any name, is equal to function. Like this we write. And if necessary, we define the parameters here. This is called function expression. Function declaration and function expression. Two techniques are there. What is difference? Between these two? What is the difference between these two? What is declaration? What is expression? Difference. Actually, the difference is when you use declaration. So when you use declaration, a function name is defined. That means a memory allocated for this function. A memory is allocated for the function by that particular name. In that memory, it can perform certain functionality. Is this memory can be shared to any another function? No. This memory allocated for function, this memory allocated for function is only for this function. This memory cannot be shared to another function. That means the memory allocated for a function is available only for that function. But what happens in expression? In expression, you see this is name, var name. Is it function name? Is it function name? It is not function name. It is a variable name. That means it's a memory name. In that memory, a function is there. What is advantage of this is later in the same memory, another function can be there. That means memory is one, but it can change the functions. That is what function expression. It can change the functions. For example, I will show you here. What we are doing is simply I am creating here a script. See, we are writing a function, some name. Function name is some hello. Then what happens? The memory is allocated for hello. In that hello, whatever functionality is defined, it will do that. Whatever functionality we configured, it is going to do that functionality. Is this memory accessible to another function? For example, there is another function, welcome. Can this welcome access the memory of hello? No, it cannot access because every function is in its own scope, it will work. I told you any variable declared in a function is accessible only to that particular function. It is not accessible outside. So now very important is how we can maintain one memory for both functions. How you can maintain one memory for both functions instead of two different memories. So we can do like this. What we will do is we will use here var some message is equal to prompt. And I said enter message, and the message can be hello message or it can be welcome. Just we are giving a hint there. Now what happens if I am writing a condition? We will create var function. So that means I am giving fun. Now what we are doing is here, if message is equal to hello, if message is hello, then In this function, in this fun variable, we will load a function. And what this function will do is, it will print a message document.write hello JavaScript. Something like this, it will display hello JavaScript. Now in this variable, which function is working? Hello function is working. Now else what should happen? Else, so what should happen? In the same function memory, we will use another functionality. This will be document.write, or this will be like, suppose alert. It can do some other thing. Alert, we will say welcome to JavaScript. Like this we are doing. That means for function, how many functions are there here? Two functions are there. One is hello function, another one welcome. How many memories are allocated? Only one memory allocated. In that memory, which function we want, we can change. This is called function expression. So what is function declaration and function expression? Function declaration allows to configure memory for a function which is not accessible to another. Function expression allows to configure memory so that it can be shared to various functions. So now see what happens here. At the end, we will call that function. But which function will be called? That depends on the situation here, whether they pass hello or they pass welcome. That means when you run this, you can see here it is accessing. So hello or welcome. If I entered hello, then it will print hello JavaScript. If I entered welcome, so then it will print welcome to JavaScript. That means memory is same, but it is handling different. So function have a function declaration and a function expression. So declaration allocates memory for a function which is not accessible to another function, That means declaration allocates memory for a function which is not accessible to another function. Right? That is the point. So it is not accessible to another function. Now, another point is here, expression allocates memory which can be shared to multiple functions. So this is the example for that. In this example, we allocated memory for a function, but in that functionality is not same. It is changing according to the situation, right? This is not function declaration. We call it as function expression. This is first thing you have to know. So in JavaScript, function is written in two ways, with declaration and with expression. Next important, we need to understand the function structure. Actually, in the function structure, so every JavaScript function comprises of three basic elements. So one is declaration. Another one is signature. Another one is definition. Three basic elements will be there. Every JavaScript function contains three basic things: declaration, signature, and definition. That means we call as function declaration, function definition, and function signature. So for example, you are writing like this: function, some print, and some message, and it is having some functionality. Now in this actually we have function, print, and MSG. This part is called declaration. That is called declaration. This is called declaration. Only print MSG. This is called signature. And this block, it is called definition. These are the three parts actually. That means in the function, this is called this entire part. This entire part is called as, declaration. In this, only this part is called as signature. We call it as signature. And this part is called as definition. That is called as definition. So function have declaration, signature, another one definition. Because sometimes in order to access the function and work with function, we use these words. For example, if I say write a function without definition, means we have to just write the function and its name without any block, curly braces. Now, if I say that, if I ask what is the function signature? Function signature means what? Function signature means the name of the function and what parameters it takes. That is called signature. So how you access any function and use from anywhere? You created a function. How you will access the function and use it anywhere? By using signature. Right? That means we are using a function signature to access the function and use. Right? So that is the point actually. So a function signature is used to access the function from any location. That's what actually we have to do. A function signature is used to access the function from any location. This is basically the function structure. So whenever you write a function, it contains declaration, it contains signature, another one definition. So this is function signature and definitions, right? So how to write the function, how to call the function, we were doing so many days. All these days we are doing that. So we know this point, but some technical words you need to know, right? We know how to write a function and how to access the function, right? So what we have to do, we write a function, some print numbers, and in this we define some statements. The statements is like So we have for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus document dot write I, like this we define. This is how to access by using print numbers. That's how we can access, right? Now the point here is this is function name. It is accessing and it is printing. You can access the function any number of times. We can access print numbers and you can see it is going to work repeated. That is reusability of the function. So now this is one example. Let me give you. So we have a function signature, function declaration, and function definition. So here, next thing, you need to know about function parameters. Function parameters. Actually, why you need parameters for a function? That means when you define function, so this is the function. Into that you can pass some parameters. Why you need parameters in a function? What is the role of parameter in a function? What do you say? What is the role of parameter in a function? The role of parameter in a function. What is the role of parameter in a function? The role of parameter, yes? Anything? The role of parameter in a function is to modify the function. A function functionality can be modified by using parameters. Parameters are used to modify the function. That means, for example, now you return print numbers. And how many numbers it will print? In the code, 10 numbers it is going to print. Suppose if I want to print 5 numbers, will you write another function for that? Suppose you want to print 20 numbers, will you write another function for 20? No. One function must able to work for different situations. How it can modify itself? By using what? Parameter. That means now what you can do in the parameter, you can say how many. Right? Print numbers, how many? This how many we will use here. I less than or equal to how many? That means whenever you call the function, what you do? We have to pass the value for how many. That means here we need to define, suppose 4. Then what this function will do? It will print numbers starting from 1 to how many? 4. That means it is going to print up to 4. Suppose later I asked to 14, then it is going to print up to 14. If I asked to print suppose some 9, it will print 9. So what a parameter is doing? A parameter is modifying the functionality. So the purpose of parameter in a function is to modify the function. So usually, here, a function parameter is required to modify the function. So a function can change its functionality according to state and situation. So parameter is used for modifying. You can say is used for changing the functionality. And every function have parameters configured as formal parameter and actual parameter. So the parameters are classified into two: formal parameters and actual parameter. That means when you write a function here syntactically, so function, some print and MSG. This is how you written. Now this MSG is formal parameter. That means what is a formal parameter? So formal parameter means what? Formal parameter is nothing but it is just a memory allocated to store value. It is just a memory allocated to store value. So what kind of value you can store in that? Any type. You can store any type of value inside it. That means, so formal parameter means it's just memory name, just like a variable name. It's a memory. What value it will contain, that you can decide. You can send any value into parameter. So here, when you are calling the function print, into that you are passing some message, some welcome, right? That means because that is message, you are passing like this. This is called actual parameter. Actual parameter is nothing but, you can simply say, formal parameter is a reference and actual parameter is a value. So formal parameter is not value. Formal parameter is reference. Actual parameter is value. Actual parameter is a value. That means MSG is reference. In that reference, what is stored? Welcome is stored. That means, so the parameters defined in function declaration are known as what kind of parameters? Formal parameters. Anything defined in function declaration are called formal parameters. And the parameters defined in function calling the parameters defined in function calling are known as what parameters? Actual parameters. Actual parameters. So this is difference between formal and actual. So formal parameter is a reference and the actual parameter is a value. That means now what happens? So in formal parameter, the actual parameter is stored. This is assignment. Equal means what? So actual parameter value is assigned to formal parameter. So that is the nature actually. And actual parameter can be any type. That means it can be primitive type. It can be non-primitive type. So it can be function type also. It can be any type. Actual parameter can be any type. Primitive type, non-primitive type, function type. Primitive type means number, string, boolean, null, undefined, all these primitive types. Non-primitive type, array, objects and all, dates, map, anything. Function type means you can have a function also. Parameter can be any type, right? You see now here, I will just pass here an example. This is example. This is a function with parameter, right? Now observe carefully here when we are defining these primitive, not primitive type. You see now, suppose I am defining a function and in the function I am defining some verify value. Okay, in that some value. Now what we have to do is we need to know the type of value. I'm just writing document dot. I'm just using here. So type of that value. I'm just defining the type of value. Now see what we are doing. That means so your value is what type it will return. That means now you see we are accessing a line break here. What value they type. So the value also I will print here. Okay. Now see I am using verify value. In that I will pass hello. Verify value hello. Now it will say that your value hello is string. I will pass here. So verify value as 20, 30. It says your value 30 is number. Right. So we say verify value. Into that we will pass true. It says your value is boolean. Right? Any complex type is considered as object. Remember, if I say like this, what is it? Some TV, some mobile. It will not return array. It will not return array. It will return as object. Because array is also an object. It is derived from which class? Array base class. Math, array, date, map. These all are derived from a root type. And what is that root type? Object. Object is the root type for all non-primitive types. Object is the root type for all non-primitive types. Any non-primitive type, it will give us object. Suppose I define verify value like this, like name as TV. like price as some price like this. Now it says that it is an object. So because we can't print directly now, right? So here everything is object. Any non-primitive type is considered as object. So verify value. I am writing a function inside. In the function, I will write document.write. So welcome. We stored a function inside parameter. Now you can see its type. It returns function. It's a function type. It knows the type, what type it is. So if anyone asks what type of parameter we can have any type of parameter. It can be number, it can be string, it can be boolean, null, or any another one, right? So, and very important is every parameter is mandatory. Every parameter is mandatory. Whatever the parameters you define in a function, every parameter is mandatory. Every parameter is mandatory. You cannot ignore. If you don't pass any parameter, then what will happen? Remember, so how many parameters a function, this next level I will tell you. That's as of now here, the parameters defined in the function declaration are considered as arguments. If a function is having parameter and you are not passing value for parameter, what, and you are using the parameter in function, then what it will contain? That's a common sense, right? We already learned so many about data types. If a variable is declared, value is not passed, what it will return? If a variable is declared, value is not passed, what it will return? It will return undefined. We learned about undefined. That's not a question at all, right? That means if there is a parameter, you are not passing the value, you know what will happen. Already you learned that, right? That is not a question at this level. That means you haven't understood properly about variables if you ask this question. What you learned about undefined type then? Right? That means there is a variable, value is not passed, and you are using that variable. What it will do? That at this level of JavaScript, you are asking that question again means you haven't understood, you don't know basics of variables. Yeah? Right? So that means, so here, what we have to do, function, into the function, some demo, the function have some name, and we are printing it, document.write, we are printing. So that means suppose this we will say as, suppose price, and we are printing price is equal to what? Price. We are printing that price. Now we access a demo. We are not passing value. If we are not passing value, it will return undefined. That's a common thing, right? So you know variables in JavaScript. So if variable is declared, value is not passed, and you are using it, right? Then it will return undefined. Obviously it will return undefined. So if you defined, suppose this is some array type, we are using some collection. Now how to read a collection, we know what we have to do for var item of what collection, and we are printing document dot write, what is it, item. Right now you see here I'm running this, and you go to inspect, and in the inspect you see what is the error, because this time it is array, you are using an iteration. Then what console will do, it says collection is not iterable. Why it is collection is not iterable? Because you haven't passed any value, then it is undefined. Undefined is not iterable. Undefined is not iterable. Suppose here we are passing so some array, in that we have TV, in that we have mobile, like this. Now you can see it will print them. Right now important is generally when you pass some string into it. So welcome. Now what will happen? It is expecting a collection, but you are passing a string. Then what will happen? You are writing logic for collection, but you are passing a string. What will happen? Actually, string is a collection of characters. String is a collection of characters. You remember we used index of char at 0, 1, 2, 3. What does that means? That means these are individually accessed. Na? Individually accessed. That means it will print welcome. Is this a collection? Yes, it is a collection. It is a collection of characters. String is a collection of characters. If it is a collection of characters, it can handle the collection. Right? That means if you are not passing a collection, suppose if I pass 10, if I pass 10, 10 is not a collection. It is not iterable. Any iterable type can be used. Even you pass a string, string is a collection of characters. Because string is accessed with a split operation. String is accessed by using index numbers. So string is technically a collection of characters. That's the reason this iteration will work. So based on what type of value you define, based on what type of operation you are handling, so you have to access and use it. So this is actually function parameter. So what happens if a parameter is defined? Now see here, generally we are not passing any value. Then it will take it as what? Undefined. It is taking as undefined. Okay. Suppose it is not expecting a parameter. It is not expecting a parameter. It is just doing some for var I is equal to 0, 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. So document dot write I. So br, like this. Now you see here, I defined here demo. Into that I am passing some 20 or 40. Is the function parameterized? Is not parameterized. Then why you are passing the parameter? Now what compiler will do is, compiler will verify that function is not having any parameters, but you are passing parameters. Then it will say that these arguments are not correct, right? These arguments are not correct. That means you see here when I run this, it is printing 10 only. It is printing 10 because the demo work is demo, right? It is doing this work, but these arguments are not taken. They are useless because it is not defined. Now in certain programming languages, what it will do, it will give a message saying that invalid arguments. So in many programming languages, we use the word called arguments for parameters. Suppose function is expecting parameter and you are not passing parameter, then it will say argument missing. Argument missing. If function is expecting one parameter, you passed two parameters, then invalid arguments. Function not expecting parameter, you are passing parameter, it will say invalid arguments. But in JavaScript, every time it will not do that. In JavaScript, if there is a memory to take value, it will take. Otherwise, it will simply ignore it. It is ignore it. That means it is not even giving a message because it is not even considering it. It will just executing, right? So I used the word arguments, and which is very much used in future. So if a JavaScript is used not with HTML, with some other programming language, means other technology like React or Angular or anywhere, their function is expecting parameter and you are not passing, then it will talk about arguments. It will say that arguments missing, arguments are not matching. But in HTML, it doesn't happen. Why? Because in HTML, it will by default use undefined as type, and it by default it uses so empty as value. So you don't pass the value, it will ignore that value. That is what actually the concept of parameter. So what is formal parameter? Formal parameter is the reference created to store the value. Where it is defined in function declaration. When to pass, while calling the function, we pass. It is called as what? Actual parameter. We pass actual parameter. Now, here question is, another option is, so a function can have multiple parameters. A function can have multiple parameters, more than one parameter. So the maximum number of parameters allowed as per ECMA are 1024. The maximum number of parameters allowed as per ECMA standards are 1024. You cannot have so many parameters. You can have multiple parameters, but the maximum number of parameters allowed are 1024. Not only ECMA, lot of technologies, the parameters limit is same. So it is 1024 only. Lot of programming standards use the same limit for the parameters, 1024. So the maximum number of parameters you can pass. You can have multiple parameters. But what is the point is, so here, so syntax, we have a function. So function name, so parameter 1, so parameter 2, like this you can define any number of parameters. Now, very important, you should know that every parameter, as I already told you, is mandatory and have order dependency. Every parameter is mandatory and have order dependency. What is meant by order dependency? Every parameter is mandatory and have order dependency. What is meant by order dependency? What is the concept of order dependency? So parameter is compulsory and have order dependency. Means you cannot suppose parameter 1 and parameter 2. You don't have value for parameter 1, but you have a value for parameter 2. Have value for parameter 2. Then you can pass only parameter 2 now? Not possible. You have to mention about 1 and then 2. That means now what happens here? See, suppose I am writing a function. So product, in that ID, comma, name, comma, price, like this. 3 parameters are there. So we are printing them. Document.write. So we are printing. So we are printing. So ID is what? ID. And name is what? Name. Another one is price. Price is what? Price. Now here I am writing product, some TV and 34,000. Now what is ID? What is the value for ID? What is the value for ID? The value for ID is TV. It's not undefined because order dependency. According to order, first value goes into first parameter. Is it any restriction that in that only number can be stored? No, it is just a variable now. In a variable, you can store anything. It's not necessary that you can store a number. You can store anything inside. That means now important here is this will be stored here. This will be stored here. And price will be undefined. Order dependency is important, right? Now, if I want to ignore this ID, what I have to do? You see now it is going to print in that way, compulsory. It is going to print in this way. Understood? Suppose you pass here. I don't want, but still you have to pass a value. But if you don't want 0 as ID, then you can write like this. You can write what it is, undefined. Now it will be undefined. Then what our developer will do? He will write a logic. What is the logic? If ID is equal to what? Undefined, then so here we will write a logic. Yeah. Okay. If ID is equal to undefined, then don't print ID. Understood? Else what we have to do? Print ID. That means if it is undefined, it is not got print. So if it is defined, that means here you defined. Defined means there must be some value. So then it is going to print that. It is going to print that and show. It is going to print that and display. Like this, for every parameter we have to verify. Every parameter we have to verify. We need to verify every parameter and configure that. That means if every parameter can be undefined, then what you have to do? For every parameter, you have to check undefined. If ID is undefined, if name is undefined, if price is undefined. Like this, we need to manage. This is what the technique you need to implement. So every parameter is mandatory and have order dependency. That means this is the order how you have to follow and define. Is it clear? That means these are all about the parameters, how you can define the parameters and configure the parameters. I hope you are clear with this, right? Now in the function, we have so many things about parameters and functions, like function generators, function closures, function parameters, expression and all. That we'll see in next session, right? Tomorrow we will do that. So tomorrow we will learn some more points about functions, how to handle and how to work with them, right? Then lot of interviews happens on functions. I will give you some FAQs related to functions at the end of this topic. Okay, na? Then tomorrow we'll continue.